This is pretty fine and dandy, but let's make a little bit more complex application. So instead of when the click event triggers, instead of simply showing an alert, let's say if you want to modify the font and colors of the paragraph, right? That's what a real application has. You do something and then something pretty significant in the UI happens, right? So we're going to just do something pretty simple, right? So just change the font colors over here, let's say. So I'm going to put this aside. And then over here, we need to, let's say, modify this particular paragraph. So we have learned that when we want to modify something in the DOM, first we need to capture it. So over here, I'm going to say const p is equal to document dot query selector and then provide the name of the element. So p, like such. So over here, I'm going to come in and say p dot style dot color is, let's say, red. So do this, save, and now refresh, click, and you see this is red. Now let's do something a little bit more fun. So let's say every time I click, I want to change the font size of this particular paragraph randomly. Okay? So for that, I'm going to say p.style.font size. Remember, this is camel case, is equal to, I want some kind of random number. So I can always make a fixed number. So I can simply put in a string because we need a string over here in CSS. So I can simply say, let's say 20 pixel. So this is always going to be 20 pixels. So if I save, refresh, and you see it's 20 pixels. But I want it to be random number. So we can actually use the math.random feature of JavaScript to generate a random number every time. So actually, if you go to the console, I'm going to make this big. And if you simply, I'm going to make this big. So plus, and I'll simply do math.random and run this function. It's going to generate a number between a decimal number 0 point something all the way till 1. So every time I click, run, every time there's a different number that is generated, all right? So we can capitalize on this and generate a new number every time. But we know this number is always less than 1 and more than 0. So if we simply multiply this by 10, we know that the number is always going to be from 1 all the way till 10, right? So that's a good number, or actually we can just multiply it, let's say, by 20. So it's going to be slightly a bigger number, right? So, or maybe let's just make it 30, so it's a slightly bigger font because we need a bigger number, right? Or we can actually make it 100, so it's going to be anywhere from 1 all the way till 100, okay? So we come back to our code, and over here, instead of putting 20 over here, we're going to simply put in math.random, run that method, and then times 100, and then plus this particular string of px. So it's going to generate a new number every time, append px to it, and that's going to be the style property appended over here. So now if I do save, now refresh, this is reset, click, and you see it's big. If I click one more time, you see it's a different font. Click, it's even bigger. Click, it's small. So see, every time I click, it is a different, oh wow, that's pretty small. There's a different font. Now, what if we want to remove the event listener, right? So we already added the event, but now we want to remove it. So the way to remove is we actually say node.remove event listener, name of the event, and the name of the exact callback function we want to remove. So over here, since we have not named this particular callback function, it would be a good idea to actually name it. And how do we name it? We're going to first, a good practice is to take this out of this particular function and put it outside and just call it click event. And now, instead of putting the function over here, I'm going to put the name of the function. And remember, I'm actually not invoking the function over here. I'm only providing the name of the function. So if I do that, save and refresh, it's going to work as usual. But now I want to actually remove it. So I can simply make a copy of this. And instead of saying button.add event listener, I would actually put in remove event listener. And now, actually, if I refresh and if I click, nothing is going to happen because immediately when the event listener was added, it was actually also removed. So a good thing would be, let's say if the button is clicked only once, then we want to remove it. So actually, we can move line number 16 inside this event listener function. So the first time this code runs, it's going to attach the event listener. And when we click this button, this function is going to run. It's going to change the styles. And after it's done, it's going to actually remove the event listener after it has done its job for the first time. All right, so if I save, refresh, click the first time, it created this paragraph. Now, when I click one more time, nothing is going to happen because the event listener has been removed. Okay, pretty cool, right? Now, one last thing I want to share with you in this video. I'm going to refresh. And let's say if you want to see what events are actually attached to one particular node, you can simply select that node. All right, I'm going to make this big. And over here on the right-hand side, there's something called event listeners. It has a click event and it has this event on this particular node. So now when I click over here, right, the activity happened. So if I scroll down, activity happened. But now when I actually come over here and now reselect over here, reselect this, you see the event listener has disappeared because actually it removed the event listener. So that's one way to use our Chrome developer tools over here. So that's pretty much it for this video. I'm going to talk to you in the next. You know tremendously a lot about Node and the document object model and a lot about it. So this is the foundation to build modern applications. Talk to you in the next video.